It is 7:32. Sorry that we are running a bit late. I'm calling to order the June 13th CSD board meeting. Thank you everybody for being here. At any point during the meeting, to make public comment, at points during the meeting when the meeting chair requests the public comment, members of the board of public shall indicate their desire to speak. Sorry about my voice, everybody. All public comments shall be addressed to the board of directors and limited to 3 minutes per speaker. The board of directors may choose to respond to comments or to request staff to respond at the conclusion of the public comment period. All right, we don't need a call to order because it's easy to see us. So let's talk about our agenda. Does anybody have any questions or needing to move anything on the agenda this evening, or can we adopt it as is?
No.
All right. All right, I think we can just adopt it. We can just adopt that. Right. All right, let's talk about the consent calendar. Any questions from the board? No. Okay, so no questions about the draft minutes of the bill paid? I had a question about the bills paid, but it was answered in the report about the water fountains and where those were going, so. All right. Would the public like to comment on the consent calendar?
No.
All right. Do I have a motion to approve the consent calendar? Second. Chris moved.
Chris and
And then Bill and Lisa seconded at the exact same time.
I'll give Bill this one. Lisa can have an action.
All right. All right,
No
we're moving.
Tiffany today. You gotta slow it down on the floor.
Your shorthand isn't up to snuff. Okay. We are moving
You need a
on.
vote.
What?
You need a vote.
Oh, okay. All in favor of the consent calendar?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. All right. Moving on to D, public comment, open time for items not on the agenda. Speakers may comment only on non-agenda items within the subject matter jurisdiction of the district. The board may not take action on, consider, or debate items not on the agenda except under narrow circumstances, meeting statutory tasks. Response to comments on non-agenda items will be limited to factual information or clarifying questions from the staff or board at the conclusion of the public comment period. The president may refer the matter to staff or to future meeting agendas. Stephen, would you like to comment?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you. So last month I talked about kindness and the value, I hope, in everybody's hearts here, kindness. So it's everybody's responsibility, including my own. And I also mentioned that our seniors, specifically Marinwood Boatwright, was having some issues, and wouldn't it be great if we could do something for our seniors. And the one project that I do believe that will help our seniors is to put more park benches in our park. And she loves the idea. In fact, she wanted to talk to you about that, Kathleen. I know you've known her since you were a baby, or and probably you too, Chris. So I was walking with her, we were chatting. She got tired, of course, and sat down on the picnic table in front of the maintenance shed unit and fell off and rolled underneath the picnic table. And she was fine, although it was kind of challenging to deal with the situation. I asked a passerby if he'd help me out. He kind of looked at me strange, but he finally came over and we both picked her up. The reason I'm talking about this is there were some comments made last month that I really I was upset about. You said, we don't know seniors, this is not part of the CSD, and I simply ask you, do you know all the kids in the community? Is taking care of the kids in the community of our interest? Tonight, as you go about your business, I want you to, before you go to bed, brush your teeth, look at your gray hairs, and look at the the wrinkles that you now have, as we all have, as we age. You're going to be in the same spot, and your actions tonight and the actions in the near future are going to affect the Marinwood that you inherit. Are you going to be the person sitting on the park bench, rolling off it, needing assistance to get up? If you're lucky, the answer is yes, because you've lived a long life. Kindness, it's your responsibility. Lastly, I want to talk about the playground equipment under consideration. I'm so disappointed that you've got a completely boring and typical playground structure that you're looking at. These structures are made in Asia. They start at $15,000 and go up. I can't believe you can't find something more architecturally significant and exciting for our community. I know, unfortunately, you're going to probably vote yes on it because that's the way it goes. But once again, I'm asking you to embrace the community of the future that you are now voting on. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Wait, may I, is she okay?
She did not break anything, if that's what you mean.
May I respond?
She struck, yeah, go ahead.
I had a talk with her on Friday.
Oh, good.
I'm going to bring up and have a conversation with Luke on the side and see what we can do, but I just wanted to let you know that I heard her loud and clear, and yes, I did talk to her.
Benches start at like $500.
I get it.
You're spending 200 grand for a
All I
boring
agreed to
playground.
was to bring it up
Thank you.
and address it and talk about it. No
But
decisions were made, no promises were made, but I just wanna, I'm telling you that you said to be kindness and reach out.
And I know you're a
spoken to her.
kind person. I
Correct.
know
I'm just
actually
telling
each one of
you-
you are
okay.
kind.
I'm just saying that your action that you just brought tonight
Yeah.
has already been moved forward, and I've already spoken to
Okay,
her.
super. Thank you.
And
You're welcome.
I did want to make a statement about the playground structures, that we have a limited budget.
200 grand buys you a lot of playground.
Steven, hold on one second. I listened to you without interruption. Kindness, as you keep saying. We got 5 bids. One bid we had to take off the bat because it was way too expensive. One bid, we saw, they didn't actually complete the bid as we requested, so we couldn't even consider them. The 3 other bids that we got were within budget. I believe that those companies actually have US manufactured things. So yes, we are trying to keep it local. And we would love to have wood. We would love to have it look like this magical forest thing. We can't afford that. The one bid that came in with wooden things had like 3 items on there, and it was over $150,000, right? More than what we requested as the maximum bid.
Okay.
So we are looking at it. We do want to do best. The life cycle of this playground, or we're going to continue talking about this later because it's actually in Parks and Rec matter. And next time, could you please not comment on things that are on the agenda in your open public?
Thank you.
Thank you. All right.
Swell you, Jim.
Moving on to district matters. We're looking at resolution number 2023-05, determining the 2023-2024 appropriations limit on tax proceeds. And we're looking to approve it.
Motion
Eric?
to approve.
Okay, I mean, this is something that we do every year. And if nobody wants to discuss, we can just put it up for a vote. I'm happy with that. It's straightforward, it's every year. All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion passes. All right, moving on to draft policy for pay schedule review of non-represented full-time positions. We're looking to approve the pay schedule review. Eric, did you want to start off with talking about it, and I'll add anything, or Lisa can add anything that she needs, because we spoke to you about this?
I was just waiting for a second vote.
Does anybody have any discussion about this?
I can talk a little bit about it. I mean, so this is obviously it's something we've been talking about for a while, probably over a year now. Thanks to Savan and Lisa, who did meet with Luke and I, and we kind of knocked out the nuts and bolts of it, and then ran through a couple drafts. to get it to where it is now. Obviously, this is just a policy for review in terms of pay schedules and potential pay schedule adjustments. This doesn't in any way say that pay schedules will be adjusted by X amount. It just sets a criteria by which they will be reviewed and a timing, an annual timing by which they will be reviewed, and it's particularly strictly for non-represented full-time positions. So all of our park guys, our rec people, and Tiffany's position.
Sorry, I just love how you always say, and Tiffany's position.
It's an odd standalone, she's
It's
a
just
department
funny how it's
unto herself.
She's a pillar of
Tiffany.
the office. Any questions about the document, the reasons behind it, what we're gonna be moving on? No? Okay,
It's good that we're gonna have something like this.
yes.
Yeah, the only other thing I'd say is part of our goal, and it's just been quite a busy several weeks, and we just didn't have the capacity to get it done, but I was hoping to be able to go through and be able to look at potential adjustments for this fiscal year that we're starting next month. We just didn't have the chance to do that, but we plan to, Luke and I will look at that, go through and bring some potential recommendations for this upcoming fiscal year. It's been a little over a year, so just in the spirit of what this policy is, we would follow it kind of in the course of that and bring something to the board to review for that next month. What I would say is whether we did it this month or whether we did it next month, wouldn't actually change any sort of an effective date, nor would it make us have to retro because of the way the timing and the first full pay period of July works out. We will be in that full pay period at that meeting, so it'd be easy if there are adjustments to make them then, and it would be the no net impact to any employees.
And at that point, you would also be able to give us the new budget.
I will have the full impact, but I wouldn't do a budget
Okay.
amendment until that got approved, so I would do
Okay.
that the following month.
Thank you for clarifying. Perfect. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Is there- All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. All right. Item 3 in district matters, financial year 2023-2024 pay schedules of all positions. We are looking to approve that too.
Yeah, and obviously, if we make any changes next month when we look at things, I'll just include in the motion or recommendation to adjust the pay schedule at the same time. This is something we just go through every year. It's kind of a ministerial thing. It actually came about our need to do this on an annual basis through a CalPERS audit 7-8 years ago. These are published, they're on the website, they're easy to find. These are by positions, so there are some changes in here primarily to the firefighter ranks because they're in a multi-year MOU and they will have changes coming up next year, so those have been incorporated into here. Otherwise, this doesn't represent any sort of wage increases or anything like that for anybody. It just does what's within the MOU that you guys approved a couple of years ago now.
Okay. Questions? Comments? Is there a motion to approve? Or a motion to vote? Sorry, I'm just, like, my brain just, we need to approve the financial 2023-2024 pay schedules of all positions, so.
So moved.
Kathleen, do you want a second?
No, I'm ready for Lisa too. 'cause
Second.
Go back.
We're so polite and kind.
So nice.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion passes. All right, Eric, you get to keep talking. District manager report.
Cruising right along. Let me flip the next page here. Okay, well, so totally some changes to what I put in the FEMA thing here as of yesterday and then today. Yesterday I went with our lead engineer, Matt Smeltzer. We went down to the county planning office for just a drop-in at the desk. Went through, showed him some more plans and revisions that we made, and eventually reached the conclusion with that particular person that if we shave 0.3 feet off of the exposed height of our retaining wall, we don't have to do design review. Which is a big, yeah, I know, but I'll take it.
0.3?
0.3 feet off the height.
Yeah, 0.3, so it's measured, it's showing at 4.3. It's not gonna reduce the wall or the stabilization. What we'll do is we'll build up the downslope part of it, because the exposed side is actually facing out towards the creek.
Okay.
So it's just a matter of reworking some of the engineering on some of the bank fill coming up the other side and the vegetation on that side. So that'll get us out of design review, that'll save us a significant amount of time, a decent chunk of money. They are working on that as we speak. So then we followed up with DPW and land use, because they weren't sure if this was gonna be a creek permit, a building permit, or both. And what they are stating is to submit it as a building permit under emergency repair conditions, so that will help push it through. We are expecting final construction plans, design plans for the wall, probably the first week in July. At which point we will submit very shortly after, and hopefully they can push through all of their reviews, comments, and then hopefully approvals within 30 days would be very nice. So, like working with the county, but I'll take the answer. It was much better than when he went in originally and got a totally different person at the desk who said, just came back with a huge list of things we would need to do for design review that was way beyond the scope of what we had to do when we built a 2,500 square foot building just down the way. So this is good, we can focus on the site, we don't have to come up with this huge checklist for the entire parcel, which I was getting ready to politely fight against anyway. So that is good, so it's moving forward and I'm happy with that. Then the other thing I actually alerted you about, but recently I went through and spent probably more time than I should have, but I'm glad I did, looking into all of our foundation documents, Board of Supervisor resolutions from 1960, to find anything anywhere that stated that we are the responsible agency for roadway medians. I could find nothing to that. I hiked it over to City Council, to County Council, who also represents the DPW department. The DTW attorney and our attorney both conceded that we have no responsibility for roadway medians, and that responsibility does fall on the county, which is great. That said, I'm not expecting them to just start showing up with landscaping crews and everything, because that's not what the county does. They're more of a hardscape, cut it out, tear it out, hardscape it, don't think about it again outfit. So I have a meeting set with the DPW director in a couple weeks, just to kind of talk about how we might be able to work together, identifying some of those smaller little islands that they can go ahead and hardscape, do whatever they want with them. Hopefully be able to take care of the liability that is that huge eucalyptus grove down on the eastern end of Miller Creek. And then we will continue to work on this kind of median right here in front of the park, because I do think it helps and makes the park look nice and reflects directly on our property. So we'll see where that goes, but in the meantime, they did tell me that they will no longer be referring concerned residents to our office, which is great. Small victories, but I will take it.
Can I ask a question about that?
Sure.
So, small victories, we'll take it, but then I have a follow-up question about, does that change how we can approach developing it? Like, would we need to work with the county?
Developing what?
Well, like, people not only want it trimmed back, but they want it to look nice. So if they're just gonna like pave it over, maybe people won't.
What are you talking about?
Well, just various areas.
I would direct your questions to the County Department of Public Works, who has the responsibility for roadway medians.
That's my question, is
Yep.
that's who we need to work with. And is that something that individually people of the community need to do,
Yeah.
or, okay?
Yeah.
Because
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
totally
yeah.
not board.
It's, it's absolutely has nothing to do with our agency, which is what I've been contending for 8 years.
Okay.
So it's,
I just clarifying.
and this is finally them conceding to it. So this is their attorneys conceding to that. Yeah, that's not on them, it's on us. So, and again, I have no idea what their plans might be. I can tell you right now, it ain't gonna be anything really soon. I mean, they're gonna look exactly the way that they look
Yeah.
for a while, would be my best guess. But I have interacted with this person a couple times. She did get back to me promptly when I respectfully delivered this request and this news to her. We are gonna have a meeting in a couple weeks. So I'm more looking at some of the bigger areas. I mean, those little island things, I don't know what they're gonna do with. I wanna make sure that they realize that, that eucalyptus grove is a liability. It expends resources. There's a huge limb that fell 6 weeks ago that blocked the entire roadway. The fire department had to go out at like 9 o'clock at night, cut it up, move it off into the middle thing. And one of these days, one of those huge limbs is gonna fall right as somebody's passing by.
Yeah.
So that's, I just wanna make sure that
Was
they're on
that-
top of that.
Was that during the high wind event?
It actually wasn't really, it was after a lot of stuff, but it wasn't on a super windy day. I actually noticed it. I'm the one who called down to the station to say, have you guys gotten a call about this yet? Cause I was driving from my home to go somewhere and all of a sudden that road, it was just blocked. So I had to kind of go through Roundtree and everything, but it was a large limb.
Yeah, because occasionally during stormy
Mhm.
weather.
Oh,
when I
occasionally,
leave
almost every
early
time
in the
during stormy
morning,
weather.
there's limbs up.
Uh-huh.
on
Yeah, it would be nice to see them take care of those. I don't know what their plans would be. It would be a lot cheaper, I think, to shape them up and cut them back and open them up a little bit than it would be just to take them out. But
They're like big, huge pom-poms right now.
oh yeah, they're well
If they
half,
ever caught
half
fire,
of them
they're-
are.
That will light up the whole.
Well, that's so
Thank you, Tom.
yeah.
Alright,
But point being, it's on them. I know that Chief White's gonna talk a little bit more about some of the open space stuff. Just a really quick note that I have, actually had a couple meetings recently with, the vegetation management specialist, with Santa Fe Fire. They've been out, they've seen ours, we're looking at areas specific towards next year on some of the projects that we wanna do. So again, thank you to Chief White and his crew because they're always incredibly, great to work with. I actually went down and, joined one of their training sessions to tell their new seasonal inspectors about Marinwood and stuff, so they were all great. The California Voters' Right Act, I just wanted to put this in here. I don't think it's anything we need to worry about immediately, but this is something that could impact us. And if you kind of check it out in a lot of the news in a lot of cities, and I know Santa Fe went through this a few years ago, due to the California Voters' Right Act and some of the clauses in there are switching from what's known as an at-large election to district-based elections, where your boundaries are separated into 5 equal things by demographic, population, all sorts of stuff, and then you have to have a representative. So if there's 5 seats here, we would have to split this up into 5 boundaries. Given the fact that we're so small, I mean, I was doing the math and looking at stuff. I sat in on a webinar led by some of CSDA's legal experts. We have less than 4,000 total registered voters, which would make it very hard. We already have challenges. That said, the people who are filing these lawsuits don't care about all of that. And if you do get a letter on this, they were saying that basically the courts have imposed like a minimum $37,000 payout to this company to avoid having to go to trial, and you adopt a position that you're gonna go to these district elections. You can try to fight it. I don't think anybody's actually won it yet, but I don't think that anybody our size, right now they're focused really on larger cities, every city pretty much, as well as some of the larger special districts and school districts, but they said they come in clusters, so if agencies in Marin start getting these letters, there's a chance that they're gonna just carpet bomb every public agency. Our legal counsel doesn't have a set opinion on it, but doesn't think that this fully applies to us. Their advice on this webinar was, they wouldn't advise switching to at-large, but just keep in mind that this might be coming and keep an eye on it as it kind of progresses, because they seem to move geographically through these two, and they were showing numbers of some of the cities and towns that have tried to fight this and are into millions of dollars in legal fees, and then eventually switch to district elections anyway.
so,
Because you also have to pay their legal fees,
yeah,
and they bill out like $900 an hour.
yeah, when we did our training, Kathleen, they mentioned that this was that they were starting to look at it, so. we followed
Same
up.
with the workshop that Lisa
Yeah.
and I sat into. So this is just more of a heads up, I'll keep an eye on it. Right now, they didn't advise that we do anything, but just said certainly something to think about.
But how would we divide it up into 5?
You have to hire a demographer, everything else to, and they'll look at what your population is, what your demographics are of that population, because you gotta try to connect it into 5 demographically equal zones, so you have the equal number of people, the demographics are kind of spread equally, or so that you're not heavily weighed in one direction or the other. But
And
there's
not
a system to it,
necessarily-
they have it, but we wouldn't do that ourselves, we would outsource this to a demographer, it would probably take like a year and a half, at least to get the
I
whole
like the
process
idea.
done.
Send it in.
There's a handful of public hearings that have to go through, and ultimately it gets,
And what happens
Approved by
when
voters.
people don't step up to run in those
well,
areas?
that's that is one of the counter arguments, but they've said so far that counter argument hasn't held a lot of water.
Okay.
Because that was definitely something I brought up in this webinar was, we have a hard time filling the 5 seats in an at-large style. You're gonna whittle me down to, I have to find one person out of this pocket of under 1,000 people, that's gonna become, less than 750 people really if you do the math, so it'd become real tricky to find appropriate people and how you break it up. So, anyway,
Okay.
we'll cross
Thank
that
you.
bridge if and when, and hopefully we don't need to. And then finally, just a quick little note here, I do have another thing too. We've been budgeting it for years now, expecting it to happen. The community center furnace finally gave its last bit of life to us, so we had that replaced. We were able to move really quickly on that, thanks to Luke and his team for some of the help on just helping coordinate, but they were out here quick. Replaced the furnace, made sure everything tested out right, so we were able to have, because I know it says furnace, but that's also got the coils and powers the coils that blow the air conditioning, because it's a split system, so luckily it wasn't super hot when it went out, but everything's fixed, which is good, but they did mention that, they're also aging cooling systems up on the roof too, so compressors, so keep an eye on those. So for now, I would say, I know we budgeted for the furnace, I would just keep that in place as a just in case when one of those goes out. The other side is still relatively newer. It's all about this side of the building and these two systems, because there's 4 split systems that serve the entire community center, and it's separate setups for the fire station.
Okay.
And then finally, the other thing I would bring up, Talus Reserve, which is the development that's occurring, what's going to be the extension of Ellen Drive. They are making some movement. If you've driven by, you've probably seen all the story poles and everything that's up. That's 28 lots, and I believe 22 of them are also going to have ADUs attached to them. They're a ways out from breaking ground. They're still in the preliminary, they've broken it up into 2 different projects. They're still in the preliminary stages of design review. Reason I bring this up is because they did submit their streetlight proposal, which we are the authority for. So for the first time in a long time, there's potentially going to be 6 new streetlights put into Marinwood. I have a meeting with somebody from DPW, somebody from planning, as well as the developer, and if DC Electric can make it, they'll join too, but they've given me all the info that I need to make sure that we're getting the right kind of lighting in there, the right temperature, the right wattage, everything else. And ironically, that meeting, the planner on that meeting happened to be the planner who was working the counter when we were in there yesterday. So she said, "Oh, I've got this other meeting in your neighborhood." I said, "I'll be in it." She's like, "Oh, you're Eric on the email." I was like, "Yes, I am." So, small little county. The one good thing though, and the developer is comfortable with this, is we've asked them to provide, because it's not going to be your standard street lights. They want to do a more decorative style. And we've said that once you're done, you need to provide us with 2 to 3 spares that DC Electric says they'll store on site for free if there's any problems. We'll have whole fixtures that they can just come out, replace the fixture, and be done with it as, kind of like an impact fee, but not an impact fee, just to go with that. So that is my report. Question?
On the streetlights, you said that they want to put in, quote, decorative, different than what we have currently.
Correct.
So we're asking them to set up spares in case they...
Car hits one, whatever.
Right, so in eventuality into the future, we're going to be on the hook when those are all taken care of.
Yeah, and much in the same way, we're on the hook with the fixtures and everything
No,
else.
I just want to be...
Oh yeah, no, they would essentially become our property.
Okay,
And then it would add 6 streetlights to our maintenance contract, which is 91 cents per light per month.
yeah.
For this style, for an LED style
I know,
light.
but
Originally they wanted 12, they've
The
actually
property
scaled it down to
tax.
6.
ad valorem will take care of it.
Well,
Should take
28,
care of it.
well, 20, yeah, well, plus you'll get 28 units times 15, I think I did the math, it was like $425 or something, extra per year out of that, so that will balance itself out, and
Okay.
considering that they're new and we'll have all the parts, I can't envision a lot of maintenance.
No.
And it'll all be undergrounded too, so.
Utilities will be underground?
Other utilities are all
Oh,
the underground.
wow, how nice.
Yeah, I don't think they do overground utilities anymore for anything.
I have a question. Remind me again, the FEMA, once we get all this done, then it gets submitted to FEMA and gets approved?
Once, as we go through this and we have plans that the county will accept, we will then, it'll also, FEMA will kind of happen concurrently. We will submit plans to FEMA at the same time as, for their review, at the same time as we're submitting them. We'll also have to have justification as to why this is our proposed fix. The county doesn't really care about that. FEMA does, because they utilize various different models on, here's the problem, here are the different models we have fixed, and if we're gonna propose something different, they wanna know why, and what's the justification, even though it might be more expensive, or whatever the case, it might be the proper way to do it. Once they approve that, that is when they will obligate the funds.
Okay,
Based on, professional estimates of what we think it'll cost. If we get it done less than that, we keep the money. If it costs more than that, we submit a change to them, and then they give us more money. And if the whole project, which we still anticipate will be under $1 million, it's a much simpler process, because that, to them, is considered a small project.
thank you.
Yeah, anything over $1 million, the funding part gets a little tricky.
On that note then, since the plans are being submitted, we're talking July possibly. The approval would be 30 to 60 days, then we're running into October.
Well, this is why we're putting in for an emergency repair. So hopefully
Okay.
the approvals would be able to get done in 30 days or less.
Yeah, because
We've
once
done the
RFP
backwards
goes-
math and still think that we can, and also keeping in mind, this is gonna have to go out to public bidding, there's gonna be a 30-day process in its own right. There's no rest for the weary on this one. That said, it's fairly critical that we get this done this year, before the next rainy season and Moore Creek Bank washes out.
And is it looking like it will probably be the same time as we're doing the play structure?
Construction very well could be.
Will they access that way?
Oh, yeah. No, they'll be going through the side, through the pool, and there'll be a staging area, depending on what the different types of the work are. We're looking to stage also on the other side of the creek, in that little bump out, right on the other side of the bridge there. They will need some access this way, because the wall obviously will be right beside here. We're talking about, cutting back some bedrock, widening the channel, because you're gonna narrow the channel. It's all hydrology and water flows and.
Is there a chance we will go to the pool early?
No. That's not part of our plan right now.
Okay.
And looking at it, it will disturb a little bit, but at the end of the day, you just gotta figure it out and get it done.
Got it.
But right
Okay.
now, our plan isn't to close the pool down unless we absolutely have to, but no.
Yeah, perfect. Good to hear.
Don't hold me to it. You never know.
Do you have a question?
I don't,
Lisa?
thank you.
I had a question, because we're talking about lights, and let's say we have to replace our lights, like how do we fund that?
What do you mean?
So if we have a light fixture, like a lamppost go down, is that our general, how do we?
No, we have funding within the streetlight budget that comes from that. It would just
Okay.
come out of the maintenance portion of it. Certain things are automatically covered. A bulb goes out or whatever, that gets replaced. That's part of our annual maintenance contract. That's not an extra charge to us. If it's a wiring issue and they have to send somebody out, then they charge us, their time and materials rates, which are all agreed to under contract with the Marin County General Service Authority.
Okay, and at what point do we consider changing out which lampposts we have? I'm just asking, because we never do.
No.
Okay.
No, those ones actually aren't that old. Everything got converted to LED. I want to say it was around 2011 or 12.
It was before I was elected.
Right. Yeah. No, looking at old emails, I want to say it's somewhere around 2011 or something. And I think you came on, Bill, in 2013.
Yeah, I think.
I think so too. So it
Like-
was, yeah.
Okay.
But no, I mean, those are pretty simple structures attached to PG&E poles.
Yeah.
You know, we don't, none of them actually are standalone streetlight poles. They're all attached to the utility poles, and that's the one benefit of having overhead.
Alright. I was just, because they're saying, talking about decorative, I was like,
Yeah,
yeah,
well-
we want to do decorative. No, okay. Alright, I'll stop talking about that then. Alright, thank you. No other, okay. It's all you, chief, we're moving on to the fire department matters.
Right now.
Now,
Not yet.
district manager report, we just did that.
Oh, we are moving on to fire department matters, but this one's still me, for resolution
Oh, yeah, the
2023-06. This is, so,
Motion to approve.
Yeah, this is a motion to approve the resolution 2023-06, government code section 21-15-6, determination of disability status for application of industrial disability retirement submitted by an employee.
and your job is to consider the merits of the facts as they were presented to you, which is, he was injured on the job, he had a workman's comp claim that was accepted. He has a competent medical opinion that he can no longer perform his duties as a firefighter. That condition is permanent stationary, and you have viewed the medical records to the extent needed and made available to you.
I motion to approve.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion passes. Alright, hopefully we don't have to do that again. Chief, your officer report and activity, unless, Kathy, did you?
Oh my god,
Oh, we didn't
this
have-
month's meeting was
We
amazing.
didn't have to, that's right.
It was Park and
It
Rec.
was Park and Rec, we were all present and not talking, so that we could,
So I have content to report.
yeah, alright, go ahead, Chief.
I'll try to pick up the slack.
Thank you.
All right. Well, good evening. I'm gonna start, actually, I'm gonna jump over real quick to a news release, if you don't mind.
Yes.
I just received this today for immediate release. We got controlled burn scheduled on June 15th and 16th, north of St. Vincent, but east of 101. There's gonna be prescribed burns from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. on both days, and they're expecting that there's not any significant wind events or anything else that can contribute to anything that may be of concern. We do know a couple of years ago this happened, and the wind shifted and blew right back into our summer camps and things of that nature, so they're gonna be on the lookout for these things again. There's gonna be quite a few folks there, roughly about 120 people. Approximately 80 of them should be seasonal folks getting training, opportunities to learn how to address wildfire while they're doing the prescribed burn. And so that training ranges from hand-line construction, tactical communications, hose laying, and some other, I'm sure, mop-up and overhaul exercises that kind of teach everybody what to do to code trail and understand what they can understand here in this environment without going to an actual strike team deployment where you get a lot more work. With that being said, about 30 acres total, larger fuels, and it's the Marin County Fire Department that's really operating this, but it's in concert with Novato, San Rafael, and the county. And so we just hope that folks, if they see smoke, they won't call 911 because of the already the understanding that this is taking place. I'm not sure how much more information has been released through other sites, social media, the radio, et cetera, but the hope is that probably there's going to be some passerbys who are passing from other communities that don't know, who may radio or phone in, but at least if our members in our community know, there's no reason for alarm or concern. So, and with so many people standing by, already pre-positioned, I think it's pretty good assurance that everything's going to be okay. So just
Is
wanted to.
there a time, or is it all day?
10
It's
to 4.
both days from 10 to 4, yes.
10 hours.
Could
And
we
again,
let,
that's wind dependent and weather dependent, but generally speaking, they anticipate that they're not gonna see anything unfavorable that would prevent them from wanting to go ahead with the prescribed burn.
would it be reasonable to send out an email to camp parents, just letting them know that it's gonna happen? And that we'll be keeping an eye out, but then that those people who are dropping off kids and stuff aren't gonna like call in, cause there's a high traffic.
And
We'll talk about that.
Okay.
I don't fully know, Carolyn and Robin and Luke can discuss that. And then also, Chief, if you don't mind forwarding me a copy of the press release, we can put even something.
I'll give it to you electronically, but you can have this one as well.
Yeah, electronic would be great, because
Okay.
then I'll just, I can put stuff out on next door on the
Absolutely.
districts. I'm sure the county's really good about putting stuff out, but we'll put stuff out on our own, site as well, just
Okay.
notifying them that, control burns and, training activities also there. Anybody who's lived here for a while, I mean, that's basically an annual occurrence.
It is an
over here,
annual
so.
occurrence.
The news release
Really? It's
is coming
sometime
from your department?
No, this one was released from MarineCounty.org news.
Okay, because
Yeah.
usually then the IJ will pick it up, next door will have it on already,
Right.
it should,
Yeah.
and,
Should that be
but
on
people are gonna call
The next,
911
the
anyway,
next
I
still
mean.
thing that we all were told, like, sign up for fire alerts and stuff, could that be something to let people know that it's a prescribed burn occurring?
Are you referring to Zone Haven?
No, Nixle is what she's
Nixle.
talking about. Nixle usually puts stuff out saying prescribed burns in these
I see.
areas,
Okay.
so, yeah.
So maybe do that, I don't know.
Well, they did it for.
There are, and
Yeah.
Chief Weber at the county, I'm sure, is on
Okay,
top of all
alright,
that.
we'll stop making suggestions, alright, go ahead.
Okay, all right, well, I'll piggyback into vegetation management, that's currently underway here. Roughly 20 acres of open space are being grazed right now by 100 goats. And their goal is to remove flashy fuels and weeds, and they're creating roughly a 100-foot extension or buffer away from homes. And so that effort's underway right now, and it says it'll remain at Idleberry for 1 more week before transitioning to a 4-acre site at Grasshopper Hill. There's a photo on the second page if you want to take a look at where they are now. A tree service contractor has been working diligently to clear dense brush on homes behind Ellen Drive and Las Gallinas Avenue near the Miller Creek Middle School. And that's going concurrently with the goat grazing effort. And so they're going to move from there, but their primary goal right now is the small invasive plants and trees and the other brush. But they're doing some limbing up of trees as well, and just generally trying to ensure that there's not a laddering effect with any grounds or surface fires that might actually become a problem and then suddenly get into the crowns of trees and run laterally from there. So that's their goal. And you can see they're already hounding up some of their work to come back later and pick up and remove from the site in the area. So, but I'm looking at the green right in the photo, on the second photo in that tree.
We
You can
get
see
the black and
clearly.
white version.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Black and white.
Well, just, I see some grass, it's probably gonna turn yellow pretty soon here, given that we haven't had rain, so I'm sure they're gonna knock that out, knock that down while they're picking up the tree debris as well. 2 events. First time I actually attended the Marin County Survivor Celebration event. That was hosted on May 25th, and one of our members, Sean Day, was there to receive words of appreciation along with Juan Alejandro from San Rafael Fire Department from this individual who's moving down the line shaking hands. And in essence, the individual had a abdominal aneurysm that is otherwise considered deadly. And somehow or another, this individual was able to survive with the care that we provided initially on scene. And then moving forward, everyone else that had hands on this patient, from the emergency department all the way through to post-operative treatment and care, and he's one of the success stories, one of the rare success stories, and so they wanted to celebrate him. Ironically, or unfortunately, his wife actually passed on after his incident, but he's still doing relatively well and moving forward, and grateful to be alive, and grateful obviously to everyone there who helped ensure that he's here today as opposed to someone else's memory. And so as a result, that was a very moving event. There were several different stories that covered a lot of potential tragedy and hardship, but they were turned into success stories, and people that were able to overcome some sort of medical or traumatic injury that otherwise would render them, deceased. They're here right now because of all the work that our first responders in those emergency room doctors and others have done to ensure that they have a fighting chance. And so, if you've never attended, once a year, I think it's been something they stood down on for a couple of years because of the pandemic. They had it last year, I was not able to attend. I think it was late last year, not in May, but I think it was sometime around September of last year. But looks like something that they're certainly looking to maintain momentum with. And so Mike Maybach from Channel 2 News was the MC. Yeah. And just very great moving event. So I was glad I was able to attend this year. The following week, Ember Stomp 2023, a huge success. Yes, it was my first time. I didn't make it last year, but a huge success. They estimated roughly somewhere in the neighborhood of 4,000 to 5,000 people compared to the first year, where it was just on the island at the Marin County Civic Center. They actually expanded beyond that island area and took up a good portion of, I guess, where you'd see normally the fairground activity. And there were vendors with different devices and different constructs that were designed to reduce vegetation and wildfire risk. There was some mechanized bot that went around and basically torched the earth in front of it. And yeah, there's quite a few things, and you'd be surprised. This thing was very effective at what it did in the video. I didn't see it demoed in person, but it looked like something that some of the smaller agencies could definitely benefit from to save money on their vegetation management costs. So with that, that was just one example. There were other individuals there with landscaping and information that would help you identify how to best design your landscape, whether it's your front yard or your backyard, with fire-resistant materials and species that are fire resistive, along with just a variety of different scenarios that you could look at and choose from. It didn't say just take a look at these different species. They had set up demos, photographs, and even actual demos on site that gave you options to kind of choose from to see how you wanted to actually do your landscape in the event you were looking to reduce your fuel risk, or fire risk rather. The other thing that was unique about that was we had the visit from Ann Crelock and Mark Brown and Councilmember Rachel Kurtz. I saw Assemblyman Damon Connolly there. There was a great turnout of a lot of folks who wanted to be present and also see what was new this year. So I'm anticipating next year this thing is going to grow and probably include that island area where it first started, because it just seemed to garner that much attention. And so it was funny, when I got there, it was maybe about an hour and a half before it ended. I had 2 other events that day. There was the third line band, I think they called them, from Louisiana and New Orleans and that area. They were playing live music, loud too, but playing live music and trailing around with their horns and their step and dances. And I was told there was a live fire demo. It may have been that burn bot, but I missed the demo, so I didn't get to see what happened. But
They stomped it out.
they stomped it, Ember stomped. There you go. See. Thank you.
You're just on a roll today, aren't you?
Chief,
Yes, sir.
I think the NWPA had a booth set up there because they were asking all the directors to check in with given times that they could be there. To man.
Okay.
Did you do it?
I was in Italy, I couldn't.
Oh.
Zoom?
He was stopping groups, not members.
Yeah.
Sorry.
You can run around the globe, but you can't hide, right?
I enjoyed the rain there.
I bet. All right, and then, well, I'm gonna jump real quick and just, touch again on our department statistics for the month. Excellent turnout, total response times. I had a conversation with a few folks from the peninsula the other day, and I was bragging about our turnout and total response times here, and they just looked at me. They had like a blank stare. So that told me enough. They told me their response times were nowhere near ours, because they didn't even counter with any minutes or seconds or anything. It was just
They were like, we're not responding.
yeah. So,
We just respond.
and we know where we're going, obviously.
Well, at least they respond.
Yeah, hey.
And then, last but not least, the Marin Wildfire Prevention Authority on Thursday, May 18th, the Board of Directors actually approved the 2023-24 work plan and the budget that was developed in concert with that work plan for a whole host of activities. And hopefully one of them will include the new median work, now that we see that the county is fully responsible for that median. But it covers evacuation routes, it covers shaded fuel breaks, goat grazing, so many other projects that they've been working on. And keep in mind, this is the 4th iteration now of a work plan, considering that it was just 3 years ago that the Measure C funding actually launched the work plan. And so this is the 4th effort. It's being streamlined even now as we speak. Ann Crelock doing an exceptional job of ensuring that the projects continue to build on each other, but doing so with less emphasis and work being required from the California Environmental Quality Act portion of this, which can really be very time consuming. She set up a process now where things, and key subject matter experts are able to get these projects moved with a little more focus and or lack of need for renewal. It's probably a better way for me to say that, but the idea is some projects, if you go and you keep going over and over again, you have to go through this iteration over and over again. So her goal is to get the projects carried for a longer period of time so you don't have to go back and solicit their approval. There's still grant funding available. Those who are doing their own chipping, please reach out again. There's still additional monies available that can be allocated towards the debris pickup and or chipping. And there's other funding available for, you know, anything ranging from signage, auditory alerts, and in fact, I just had a conversation at the summer kickoff last week with someone who's concerned about parking in one of the few areas where she feels like there's a potential challenge for apparatus to get past parked cars that are parked on both sides of the street. I believe she said it was Cedar Hill, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, so that being said, I'm having an additional conversation with staff to ensure if that was the accurate location, and if not, we'll try to figure out exactly what the location was that she was concerned about. But she's felt strongly that two things: one, her neighbors weren't doing their due diligence with trying to remove some Italian cypress and some other species, and then the other was the concern about how to get our apparatus in and out of there if there's an emergency. I think I heard her say Cedar Hill, but I could be mistaken. I'll follow to make sure.
Can you see the one?
Yeah, I see a couple of you are like,
But
Cedar Hill? I don't remember
the end
around
of
there.
Cedar Hill gets kind of narrow.
Does it?
Up toward the open space.
But there's
At
no
the
cars
very
parked
top of it,
Yeah.
that's what I think she said,
Well,
towards the very end of the street.
Yeah.
We're turning around, yeah,
I can see that.
I've never seen cars parked there.
I don't know,
Yeah.
Doesn't matter.
but I just saw all of us go,
Hmm.
really?
We're all, we're visualizing in our head, yeah. Okay, anybody have any other questions or comments for the chief?
I don't have any questions, I just have a personal thank you to our fire department, and pass it to you first. I happened to be at a backyard family gathering for a graduate on Sunday afternoon, and one of the senior members of our community was there and took a little fall, and definitely needed some emergency care. And as usual, our fire department and the emergency personnel that came along with them were phenomenal.
Well, that's great.
Not only did they get there quickly, they really I was very impressed with, once they were on site, how quickly they just showed their professionalism. And there were a lot of people in this backyard, and how they just kept the whole situation calm. And as usual, just completely amazing. So
Oh, thank you, I'll make sure I pass that along. Do you remember what day it might have been? By
it was
chance?
it was Sunday afternoon. I
This
know.
past Sunday?
Yeah.
Okay.
I know John Papa Nicolau was on because he and I chatted for a little bit.
Okay.
So,
All right, no, that's helpful.
It wasn't
You
a-
didn't make him not be
Direct
able
it
to
to
do
that
his job.
specific crew.
no, definitely.
There wasn't a
Yeah.
bench for
It
the
was
person to
great.
sit on?
Right. It was great. So
They fell
Thank you.
off the net.
I had like a comment/question. So this weekend, I got alerts from various Jewish neighbors in the area. Apparently Chabad was having a defensible space they had reached out to the county for, and people are in heightened alerts. And I was wondering if, moving forward, if they're doing places of worship or anything, if they could just put up a little sign, because there was a lot of texting of like, why there fire, why is there police at the Chabad, like what's going on, who knows what's going on. So if they could just have like those little pop-up things when it's a place of worship, so that people don't start thinking that there's like an active shooter. I don't know why people thought it was, but this is the text that I was getting. So I'm just.
Can you help me with a little bit more
So
background?
Chabad is on, what is that,
Idleberry.
Idleberry towards Lucas Valley Elementary.
Okay.
And it's literally just, it looks like a home. It has a small sign that says Chabad Marin. And apparently they had asked the county to come and do like defensible space stuff. And so there was.
Oh, a demo of some kind?
Yeah, and they were
I see.
training, and there was no alert to the neighborhood and considering that it's a place of worship within the neighborhood, and also, unfortunately, I'm Jewish and other Jewish neighbors are on very much high alert due to various anti-Semitic things that have occurred recently. So I'm just asking for the fire when they're going out and doing these things in the police to just maybe put a little pop-up saying training.
Oh, yeah, no, that makes perfect
Because
sense. Do you know if
I'm
58
sure that
went
they
to
would've-
this, or was it just
It
Marin
was
County?
this Sunday. It was this Sunday
Okay, this
that I
past
got the
Sunday.
text, yeah,
Okay.
or Saturday. It was Saturday.
Okay, I'll double check with
Because the
both.
follow-up was on Sunday where the Chabad rabbi finally got on next door and was like, no, we're okay. We actually requested that they come out. It was a training thing.
Okay.
But like, clearly,
Maybe they can notify people.
maybe they can notify, but also, I was surprised that there wasn't
Some sort of
something,
tripod or
especially
something
with,
out
yeah,
there.
if it's a training. Because I remember when they go through and they do the assessments, they for a while were putting up the little tripod saying that they're
Yeah.
going around, so
No, I'll follow up with Chief Weber on Thursday during
Yeah.
the Marin County Fire Chiefs Association meeting, and I'll follow up with 58 to see if they know anything about it, and
Yeah.
if they had, if they attended, and
Yeah.
or whether or not there was anything
Yeah.
that was done in the way of notification or signage.
yeah.
And if not, that's a reasonable request. I think most people would probably appreciate some advance notice and maybe even want to attend.
I mean,
perhaps.
I don't even care about advance notice. I think that letting the community know that there's no emergency going on, that this is a training exercise,
Mhm.
little things. You don't get calls.
Yeah, no, I get it, no, so maybe some A-frames or tripods or something can
Yeah.
be set up, and maybe advance notice combined with that will help.
Yeah,
Alleviate the concern well in advance, but I'll look into that and find out what I can,
most people
absolutely.
forget, right?
Yeah,
All right, thank you. Anybody else,
You're
any
welcome.
other?
thank you
Still
very much.
working on my
Thank you.
license plate.
You're welcome.
Enjoy
I'm
the rest
sorry.
of your
Still working on the license plate,
Which one?
to borrow yours.
Oh, how about I make a photograph of it and I'll let you put it through the copier and make the realest version you possibly can. No, I say that and seriously, because I'm looking at DMV has temporary plates that are made out of paper, right? Have you guys seen those?
As
Yeah,
long
it's
as the
amazing.
parking authority won't give me a ticket, we're game.
All right.
Good night, you guys.
Thank
Take it
you.
easy.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Next
Chief.
month. All right, moving on to park and recreation matters. And we are looking to approve the following item, the Marinwood Park Playground, the play structure replacement project. We are hoping to accept the recommended proposal received in response to the district issued request for proposals and authorize staff to enter into contract with the selected vendor. And besides what's in this packet, we got that updated email that let's see,
On one of the vendors.
that SPEC is fine, but the MRC game time, when they came back with the requested updates from the PNR Commission, that put them over budget. All right, go ahead, Eric.
Well, just to add a few things here. So obviously you got two different reports on this. The first one also gives you some background and lets you know what brought us to that point. At that point in time, had a very good meeting with the Park and Rec Commission. There were actually a handful of board members who came through, looked at the proposals as well, which was great. Good discussion, I think, amongst there. That whittled it really down to kind of two distinct proposals, one each from two different vendors. To some of the points that were made earlier, there was one that was kind of all wood and all natural. It was well over $100,000 over the budget and actually kind of lacked and really didn't bring a lot of interaction to the table.
Disappointing.
Like none.
These ones that did come in, all of them, for the most part, tried to kind of stay within budget. The one thing that we'd always kind of hoped on this would be to, and you never know until you get current pricing on things, but are we able to kind of stretch the allocated funding we had to take care of the main park, or the main playground, as well as the top playground? And I think it became pretty clear that the best use of these dollars at this point in time was to maximize them on the main playground and forego the top playground for the time being. Luke can speak to that a little bit later if needed, just in terms of condition of the top playground and how much longer of a useful life. My understanding is we still have good accessibility to replacement parts and components, which was a big problem with the main playground. At the PNR meeting, they did ask us to go back and request some further information as well as a couple modifications. from the two different vendors, one being Game Time, the other being Spec, which is Specialized Play Equipment Company. They both got back to me yesterday, which is why you got this updated report late last night, which did get noticed and pushed out to the public as well. When they came back, to be clear, Luke and Robin and I all kind of went back, re-looked at it, thought about the comments that were made, and the Game Time proposal, while they did change out some of the things, we asked them to change out, actually increase their proposal by about $20,000 over budget, and to be quite honest, it still didn't compare to the Spec one. The Spec one was it was far superior. It is not boring by any stretch, and in fact, it greatly enhances the playground. All of the parts are actually made in the USA, and they cost a lot more than $15,000, but it is going to be in my opinion, I mean, you've seen the pictures that I included. I tried to give you what the relevant information was. I think it'll be absolutely a transformative project that could happen there. Our strong recommendation is to authorize the staff to accept the proposal and enter into contract with the Specialized Play Equipment Company for their proposal as you see it there, basically, and start working on getting permitting done. Construction timing would probably be right around October. They need about 16 to 18 weeks lead time. Doing the math on everything, they should be able to have this thing wrapped up by the end of October.
Any questions?
Go ahead, sorry.
No, I was gonna-
Oh, my only question is, remember, there was discussion at the PNR commission meeting about the
The piece that was behind the swings, about possibly switching that out? Can we do that?
Those have already been eliminated. They haven't been switched out because as we kind of went back through and noticed that there was part of the work that we want done is to have them pull back all of the existing wood fibers that are there, the wood chips, the fall material, and then to redistribute that. And that was actually tacked in as an adult, so they made some, which would have added close to $15,000 to their original $215,000 budget. What they did was we actually said, remove, after I looked at it and sent a pretty detailed email to them, literally that night after the PNR meeting, probably technically speaking the next morning, I think, it was just said, clarify that this is not part of your overall bid. Here's kind of where our budget is. Our addendum certainly called for this work to be included as part of your proposal. So they actually removed the STEM equipment and changed up one other component that really I don't think has any level of impact, let alone a significant impact. Just removing a couple pieces and replacing them with something else that were just kind of some climbing blocks that enter into an area, and we're able to get everything done, and also added a line for to have one of their people here to accept the delivery, move it to a staging area, and do everything else too. So they're really going to be a complete turnkey solution. They've actually been incredibly responsive. To Game Time MRC's credit, they also were incredibly responsive, and that was a quality proposal in my opinion. It just didn't have the same use capacity. It didn't have the same variety of different elements and activities that the Game Time one has. I mean that the Spec one has. I think Spec really nailed it on maximizing the space, and I actually appreciate that they are completely moving the swings and then adding swings to a different area, which I think for the swing activity is going to make it much safer. Every time if you stand on the playground for more than 15 minutes, you'll see 101 close calls where the swings currently are.
And then
So high traffic.
maybe one or two hits, yeah.
So I think that this is, and Luke, please chime in, but Luke and Robin, I'm really kind of leaning on them and their feedback. I certainly agree with everything and their opinion. My opinion is the same as theirs, but these are people who spend a lot of time, who dedicate a lot of time understanding playground safety, and things along those lines. Robin and her crew are out there using this all the time. I think it has a very nice breadth. While it's technically designed for 5 to 12-year-olds, there's a lot of components that younger kids will still enjoy. I think that was lacking a lot more in the Game Time proposal. And again, for the Game Time to be able to add a small amount of use capacity added $20,000 to the proposal, and it just lacked. to be honest, when you compare it to this. I think if we didn't receive this, Game Time would have been a strong contender, and I would have been fine recommending it, but ultimately, what I think the best proposal is the one that we have on the table, and I think that it's really gonna be transformative. I don't think it's gonna be boring. I think kids and families are gonna be excited about it, and it's really gonna take off for that. Once it's done, it'll be a real destination playground for a while.
And let's be honest, all of us have had kids on that playground, and the areas that are meant for the younger kids are never where the younger kids want to play anyways. They always want to go where the big kids are, so.
I want a meadow slide again.
Yeah, if I could just add one thing, if you just, I just wanted to commend the commission. I thought that was a really great discussion at that meeting, and it gave staff, gave us a lot of different perspectives with which to look at the playground proposals, which was, I thought, really helpful, and only kind of further cemented kind of why we were leaning towards the spec proposal. But today, Robert and I were out at the playground watching. We're 2 days into our summer camps, and we were looking at the kids on the playground and just like talking about, okay, this is where this would be, looking at with the playground proposal in mind, and we're just like extremely excited at the prospect of how enhanced the playground is potentially be with this upgrade. So we're very excited about it, and really appreciate all the feedback we got from the commissioners and also the board members. So we're definitely feeling really good about it.
Yeah, and this will be 98% of what else we need to do. I mean, there still is some level of funding that'll have to be dedicated towards after this. It might wind up exceeding the total grant funding match combo, but again, also, through the Kelly Wishes Foundations, through very generous donations in Pam Case's memory. We certainly have some donations intended strictly for this. I mean, as a staff, we definitely want to look at replacing the water fountain that's in there. There might be a need for additional fall material. There are some requirements for signage because this is coming through state funding. So there needs to be some signage acknowledging that. So that's one of the requirements. We also want to put in some other fun signage, I believe, kind of acknowledging some of the generous contributions towards making it happen. And then possibly once everything's in there and laid out, and these are all things we can do in-house, but looking at maybe adding some extra seating or something like that to, a good portion of the Game Time proposal was putting in seating, and that's the kind of stuff we can do. The spec proposal was all stuff that we would never take on in-house, every aspect of it. So it was a really good proposal. They were very communicative, they were very responsive. I appreciated it, and I think that they'll be good to work with. They're highly reputable. They've sent good references, good projects, following up on a couple of them. Everything looks like it's just been good work, so.
All right, thank you. Any other questions or comments?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Can I just say thank you to Luke and to Robin for doing all this work to get us to the point where we are and spending all those years thinking about it, so that when we did get here, you already kind of had an idea of what would work. But, all right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes.
Awesome.
Yay!
It'll be fun. It'll be fun. And we wrote it in. They're on top of, they gotta take care of permitting and deal with everything, so
Perfect.
hopefully it'll be
You
a
don't
little intrusion onto our staff.
You finally don't have to apply for a permit?
Not on this one. I specifically wrote that into the
I thought it was your
RFP.
favorite part of the job.
No, all permitting is the responsibility of the awarded vendor. Yeah, so it'll be great. The other thing I did want to mention is I think when they kind of put the final timing on there, I think they were looking at 1 week for demo and 2 weeks for install, so it'd probably be anywhere from 3 to 4 weeks of the playground will just be shut down, but if there's a good time to do it, October is as good time as any.
And are we gonna change colors? You guys gonna work with colors?
We will work with them and look at colors and come up with a good color scheme based on what works, although I thought what they proposed actually
Did you
wasn't
say, do we
bad
get
at
to
all.
pick the color?
No, not us. Are we going to do coloring, changing the colors? I meant the royal we, apparently. The board doesn't get to do anything, but I meant the royal we.
We'll work with the vendors, it'll be,
Just
it will
what we
be,
mean, Luke, Robin and I.
There was a discussion about color changing, sorry. All right, moving on. Recreation and park maintenance activity reports. Let's not harass the board president. She's got kids to do that.
Thank you. So, biggest news, this is our second day of our summer programming, and things are going extremely well. It feels a lot farther in than just 2 days, but not in a bad way. This feels like, I think it's I mean that in a positive way, that just feels like the things are running so kind of like clockwork. It just feels like we've been doing this for a long time, and I feel relieved. Well, a bit this summer, but yeah, it's been going really well, both on the summer camp side and at the pool with the swim lessons and running like summer rec swim, and all the staff being here. It's been very busy and very exciting and lively. It's my favorite time of the year, so I'm always excited to go into summer. But I want to commend Robin and John Paul just a little bit. This last few weeks has been just a really huge workload for both of them. They're just doing all this last minute preparation and running all of these staff trainings, and these are things that can't be done more in advance because we're getting a lot of our employees back from college and getting out of high school, and sports ending and things. You just have to pile it all in right in basically the weekend before summer starts. And Robin's run a dozen CPR classes this last season just to get all of the hundreds of staff recertified and through all the first aid and CPR training. And I helped her a little bit, but she did the lion's share of all that. And then John Paul has been running all sorts of pool attendant, swim instructor, lifeguard, senior lifeguard trainings, getting everyone on the same page and up to speed. And it's been a whirlwind of trainings going into the night, coming in on the weekends, along with doing all of their normal job duties. And that's the way it is every year. But I've just seen them working extremely hard this last few weeks, and especially this last few days, this last week itself. And they're just putting in long hours, getting here late, or staying here late, getting here early in the morning. And it's been, I've been very proud of them. And seeing the way that our summer camp staff and our pool staff have operated this first 2 days has been, it's just been really amazing. It's running like a well-oiled machine. We got today. We had a lot going on. We had some kids lose teeth. We had a couple minor dodgeball injuries. We had there's just a bunch of the different random things that just happened at summer camp, which had a lot of them in one day, all unrelated, all random. And to see the staff just handling things and kind of running camp incident triage, and everybody was just taking care of business and communicating well, and there were no issues that I had to come and intervene or feel oh no, we need to change this, we do that. Everything was just working the way we hope it works, and I was it's wow, this is great. And down at the pool, all the swim lessons are going great. The lifeguard staff, we have a lot of new lifeguards that we hired this year, which is awesome. And that whole program is just running super well. Everyone was just taking care of business and really on it. So I was really excited this last 2 days just to see how well on the summer, the start we're off to in the summer, and it gives me a lot of encouragement for the rest of the season. But I just want to say thank you to John Paul and Robin specifically, because they have these huge programs that they're overseeing, and they really put the work in to make sure we started on the right foot. So thanks to them. And the other programs that are going on, besides camps and swim lessons, we also have our guards in training program that's going on mostly based at the pool, and that program is really big this year with a lot of good enrollment. And then our CIT program, the counselors in training that we have with this kind of middle school kids working in our camps, learning the ropes, helping out. And those programs are really big this year, and that bodes really well for future in employment, being able to hire from these kids when they turn 15. And so those programs started out with a bang this week. We're really excited about that. I've got 2 kids in camp this week and in swim lessons, and they're both, they could not stop talking the whole ride home the last 2 days. It's just this happened and that happened, I learned this, I did that. I wouldn't even have any, I couldn't even get a word in. They were so excited to talk about it. So I'm really excited about that, and I hope that bodes well for the rest of the summer. Couple other things to note. We had our annual week of chaotic pool schedule right before the summer, where we had a lot of end of the year school pool parties, And those went really well. It was really fun to see the kids celebrating the end of the school year. We had a couple of them like DJs and photo booths, and the kids had a lot of fun. Even though it was really cold and overcast and possibly raining. On some of them it was not the most ideal weather, but the kids had a great time, and we were really happy to be able to host those programs each year. And then other thing I just wanted to mention is our next community event is going to be the first installment of the Music in the Park series, which is a week from this Friday on June 23rd. And we've got a great lineup, which is now up on our website. We're pushing out emails this week about the bands and the info. Marinwood Market will be providing food at all of our events. They're taking place every other Friday with, instead of the one in the middle, that will be our Summer Brew Fest on that Saturday, which is July 22nd. But we've got 4 days of music in the park and 1 brew fest this summer, and all of that's coming together, and we're really excited to bring those events back this year. So keep an eye out for those. Hope you guys can all make it. But those are Fridays from 6 to 8 in the park. And that's the recreation activity report. Before I move on to the parks maintenance activity report, does anyone have any questions?
No, I would just like to tell you that I'm really excited that the kids played dodgeball.
Yes, there's lots of dodgeball, goggle ball, cone ball, every kind of ball. So yeah, it's been good.
I'm just so thankful every year that you guys work so hard and it comes out so well and do all the training. Because I know myself and other parents, their kids come home just like yours, and they love replenishing their babysitting roster by the amazing staff that you guys provide. So just putting it out there. Thank you.
Appreciate that.
My kid aged out, but thanks. She's just really
Good memories, right?
yes.
On the parks maintenance world, we've had some tree work done right before the summer, trying to get some trees cleaned up in the park, and also we removed one tree that was kind of overtaken with termites. We want to make sure we got that out before it caused any damage or was a hazard. And we also have tree work and some other clearing and cleaning up happening in the medians along Miller Creek Road, medians that have been in discussion a lot. We had some.
Do we need to do that cleaning then?
Well, we did have some money left in the budget, and we figured we could make some improvements, now, and maybe the county will one day want to take that over and be able to take that on. But right now we're trying to get things cleaned up to the point where our landscape contractor would be better able to maintain. So get things kind of clean to a point where it's much easier to work on as opposed to having to be this massive project that would be hard for anyone to make a dent in with the weed whackers and the pruners. So that's still in process. There's another few days of work to be done. Hopefully that is going to happen later this week, and things will look a lot better. And so we're excited about that. We had I call it an open space encroachment, but we had a little bit of a hangout set up that was we were alerted about in the creek, I guess that's just south of the Creekside Park. It was kind of hidden away in the woods, but there was a bunch of stuff seen, and we were worried it was an encampment, but it ended up just being a bunch of. It seems most likely just teenagers hanging out, nothing too egregious out there, but a bunch of stuff, and they definitely messed a lot with the foliage, and there was a lot of damage and things that we're not happy about. But the staff were able to get out there and remove all of the debris and equipment that was left out there, and did kind of left a cease and desist. And we've been monitoring that area since, and it doesn't seem like anyone has been back, but that was a lot of stuff to haul out. So we're happy that one of the residents alerted us to that, because it wasn't visible from the road. It was, I think, only visible if you were hiking some of the trails out there. So staff took care of that, and there now it's kind of part of our patrol, just making sure that it doesn't pop back up, and that we can let that area rehabilitate. So not a lot of damage, but we definitely don't like it when people are knocking things down and digging and stuff. So that's something we'll continue to keep an eye on. If there's any development there, I'll definitely update you. Another thing I want to mention is just you might have noticed the caution tape in the lobby. We do have some new drinking fountains that we were able to purchase with money from the Lions Club, generous donation from the Lions Club. And we're working on getting those installed. These are going to be an improvement on our existing water fountains, just that they're going to be filtered, chilled water with a bottle filling station. And we're working on that. We have to have a plumber come in and do some reconfiguring just to make the plumbing work with the new units, and that's taking place very soon. We'll have those up hopefully by next week. And then we've got another duo of water fountains with a bottle filling station that's going to go down at the pool to replace the current water fountains down there, which will also be filtered, chilled, and bottle filling water, which we're really excited about. That one's going to be a little bit more involved. It's going to involve having to go into the cinder block, and it might be a little bit more. So we're going to figure out what kind of work that's going to take and when it makes sense to perform that. But hopefully we can get it done soon during the season. And I'll definitely update you as we figure out what that's going to take. But that's another exciting project that's underway. Other projects we have coming up, we're going to be doing some landscaping in the north end of the park where those shipping containers were living for a while. We're going to rehabilitate there, and we'll add some. The staff is still working on our plan, but we're going to plan to add some turf back in and potentially a couple picnic areas there, and create a path through that area. So once we finish getting some landscaping done at Creekside Park, the staff will start focusing on that. And we also have a few other repairs to make amongst all the normal maintenance activities. So that's my report. Let me know if you have any questions about the parks maintenance side.
Anybody have any?
No, but I think they do a great job.
Thank you. I'll pass that along.
On the part that you just mentioned about the redoing that, I know I had asked and never really followed up on. I have potentially a group who would like to donate some money in honor of Brian DeSanto. So maybe, I don't know if maybe there's a possibility that we could donate and maybe alleviate some of the financial burden with maybe just like a little, something small.
Would that
That would acknowledge
would it be
Brian.
better to do the water fountains or possibly benches?
No, I think the group that I'm talking with, because that's where we held a long time ago our 4th of July party that Brian was a huge part of.
Oh, okay.
It would be
that would make more
perfect,
sense. Yeah.
geographically, it would be a nice connection.
Okay.
So,
I take that comment down.
I know there's a process that's online, so we
Sure,
have to
well,
follow that
depending on what
process.
exactly we're talking about.
Okay.
So I would, let's talk offline,
Okay.
fill us in on what you guys are thinking a
Yeah.
little bit more, and if we're looking at, some sort of like a memorial or recognition, then yes, there is a process to
Right.
it. If we're just kind of looking at the, refurbish, let's talk.
Yeah, for sure.
I did have a question when I was at the pool this weekend multiple times for various things. And kept visiting the bathroom.
Yeah.
The sink there, it's like one of them, and then the rest, one stays
Yes.
on and the rest don't turn on. Is that what we're fixing?
The sinks are
Those darn kids.
the sinks are just really, really old, and we've there's a plan to fully replace the sinks in both the bathrooms at the pool, which is going to be very disruptive, which probably will wait until the end of the season to do that, because that's going to be a bit of a demo project, and we'll have to do a lot there. The current sinks have kind of gotten past their usable life. We're trying to keep them going with some, trying to get parts for them, but they're extremely old and outdated and they're hard to work on. And so we're trying to keep the water flowing in there, but there's a couple that we can't get parts for, and we're just trying to keep the ones that are working.
Okay, because right now I think there's only one working. Just
Should be 2.
Now it's 2? Okay.
In each, but yeah, we're aware, we're monitoring
Okay.
them because we're trying to. It's a lot of maintenance just to keep what's going, still going there.
Yeah.
So
I was excited that there was a line, that people weren't just leaving, but besides the line in the bathroom to go pee, there's a line
to wash hands, yeah. So I
I was very proud of the kids for standing there, not just walking back to the pool.
That is good. We train them well. Yeah. So that's on our radar, and it's a constant constant maintenance just to keep those things running at the moment.
No, thank you. Anybody else? No. All right, are there any board member items of interest? or request for future agenda items?
I'll come back to my benches / tables in the open space, now that the weather's cleaned up.
Isn't that piano?
That is Peter.
I'm just putting that out there as a thing.
So I guess that's another thing that
Would that
maybe
be
bring up
along
at
the
the PNR meeting,
panhandle or
is
open space?
where working
I
with
think I think
staff.
where we left it off is Ian was gonna work, Commissioner Fine was gonna work, and then things got really busy and super wet, so we kind of let it go until it was, so. I'm just saying it out loud so I don't forget it.
But those are up there.
Yes,
and then-
in the elevated open space.
Right, and then we also have requests for possibly looking at spots for other benches.
No, that wasn't a request, it was a conversation that I will be having with Luke, that Luke will then be bringing it to the PNR.
Okay, just want to make sure
Not an
that's on
agenda
there.
item yet.
Perfect.
All right, other
But
than
correct me
that,
if I'm wrong, didn't we already approve the
Mhm.
trial basis of it going up there and?
Yeah,
yeah,
Okay.
okay,
just circling back.
all right, is there a motion?
Motion to adjourn.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor? Oh, I don't have to do that.
Nope.
Right.
The next day, the next regular board meeting is July 11th. Everybody have a wonderful rest of June, I'll see everybody.
Everyone have a wonderful 4th of July.
No, Lizzie.